All right, Akim, Shalom, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, first and foremost. I give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakradash, double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquas that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with another quick, as Lord's will as always, Yahweh Ratazah, an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I just wanted to go through just a quick lesson. And I titled it "Circumvent the Curses," and I put like a question mark because in a very I guess a joking way, because really and truly what inspired this lesson, I was just hearing a couple of Israelites of mine, at the workplace, lamenting about the conditions of living in a society like Babylon the Great, America, and its affiliates, Canada, and so on and so forth. And they're just lamenting about how much taxes you have to pay. You have to do this, you have to do that, and the government takes so much of you, and they take so much of your money. They don't pay you, a fairly decent wage. They don't pay you the same day. There's just so many pitfalls that Israelites have to go through, and they're kind of just lamenting essentially. Right, so I'm just sitting there and I'm sitting back there and I'm just listening to the whole conversation. So this lesson really is an inspiration of that conversation, right? So I just wanted to touch on a couple precepts, and as always, how Ratazah this lesson will be edifying, right? So I put the word here circumvent, right? So what does that word actually mean? So let's get let me get it in the etymology so we can get a bit a clear understanding of what's actually being said here, right? So this is circumvent in the etymology online, and it says surround by a hostile stratagem. It says to get around, to be around, and circle, surround, to oppress, assail, cheat, around. So circum means to circum means around. And vent goes back to the French word venir, meaning to come. So essentially to come around. So kind of, essentially kind of sidestep something, right? And so this is what our people's minds is. I understand, this is my opinion. I understand that you want to go back, to your respective islands, but you have to understand that, the Lord cursed you people. He cursed us as a nation, right? Because of our disobedience, right? So I guess I'll start off with that precept. Like I said, this lesson won't be too long, but, I just wanted to shed some light on some of the things that were discussed here, right? So Amos 3 verse 1, and it says, Hear this word that the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, hath spoken against you, O children of Israel. So nobody else. You particular Israelites, from you so-called Negroes down to you so-called Mexicans, speckled-bird Israelites, right? Why you're in this position that you're in. It says, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for your iniquities. Right? So essentially, the Lord only knew us intimately. Right? He gave his law, statutes, and commandments to us as a people. He didn't give it to the whole world, and that message didn't change in the New Testament. Right? So, like it also says in Psalms that he hath not dealt so with any other nation, right? So the Lord is only intimate with us, right? And we essentially played the harlot. We played a whoring, going after the customs of the heathen. And Jeremiah outlines and it says, learn not the ways of the heathen, right? We're not supposed to we're not supposed to partake in their ways, take on their customs, get involved in their philosophies, their rituals, whether it's their women that are into these rituals. We're not supposed to take on these customs, right? And go a whoring after these other gods, right? And that is one of the things that the Lord punished us for, because we did these particular things, right? So the Lord only knew us, right? So you Israelites need to understand that. Let's get some of the things that he did, right? Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, and it says, "And it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, and observe to do all these commandments and statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." So these are particular things that the Lord did. Because of our disobedience, we decided to go play the harlot. We decided to go do this, sacrifice unto other gods. That was one of King Solomon's transgressions. His mind essentially got turned away from the Lord. I could always get that later on, right? And then we experienced a kingdom split, right? So these are the particular things that happened to us as a nation, right? And we just kept going into captivity after captivity. When you read Daniel 7, up until the time of Yahushua, and then the Romans came and destroyed the temple, and we fled again into the interiors of Western Africa, some of us into Europe and across Western Asia, and so on and so forth. And as a people, we've just been lost, right? Looking for answers, because we haven't come back to the Heavenly Father, right? And understanding, knowing who we are and why we're in the position that we're in, right? So this chapter outlines these particular curses that the Lord placed on us because of our actions, right? So what I want to do, I'm just going to hit a couple points here, right? Because sometimes Jake, I listen to Jake sometimes, and sometimes a little compassion comes upon them, but then you realize, oh goodness, like we went off as a nation, right? This is why you don't have any rest for your souls, right? Deuteronomy 28, verse 65, and it says, "And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest," right? So you essentially be in a situation where you're constantly, you're constantly working, you're constantly trying to, make ends meet. You're like essentially, the best way I can describe it is kind of like you're a hamster on a wheel, and it just keeps running, just keeps going, just keeps going. That's the essentially, like it says in Ezra, it says the condition of the battle, right? So you're constantly in this cycle of working, and you have to pay this, you have to do that, and you're so caught up in trying to do these particular things, and you don't have any understanding as why, right? And that's Jake's essentially problem. They don't understand why, right? And so that's why they don't have any rest in their spirit. So let me get actually, okay, so let me actually get two precepts. Just bear with me on this. Okay, Isaiah 59, verse 1, and it says, "Behold, the Lord Yahweh's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear." Verse 2, it says, "But your iniquities," so heaping sin upon sin upon sin, right? And sin is what? A transgression of the law, right? The law was only given to the Israelites. Verse 2 again, it says, "But your iniquities have separated you from your power, and his sin, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear," right? So, you go about your, lives, and you realize, Jake, they just keep heaping sin upon sin upon sin, right? I noticed something as well, that, adultery is something, like, just I'm using adultery as an example. Adultery is one of those things that runs rampant in this society. Runs rampant, especially amongst our people. And our people, they make songs about it, and because they have no understanding of who they are, and they don't treat wisdom as the principal thing, like it says in Proverbs, they do these particular actions when they get into very nice, comfortable positions, and they get a little bit of pride because they accumulated some sort of so-called wealth, right? Because it's nothing, it's peanuts when you really think of it in comparison to like what the elites and these elite families have, these elite Edomite families have, right? When they get into these positions, they think that okay, the money makes them comfortable. It makes them feel like okay, you know what? I don't really need Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. I don't really need God. Everything is good. There's there's water flowing through the tap. I got food in the fridge, roof over my head, good. What I'm saying? Like they don't actually their mind about Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is far from them, right? They're far away. They don't think about the Lord in times like that, right? Only when times really start to get rough. I'll read verse 3, and it says, "But your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with iniquity, and your lips have spoken lies, and tongue hath muttered perverseness," right? So, our people don't understand, that because of their actions as well is the reason that they're in this position, right? Because, we made a covenant with the Lord, right? And we did not uphold our end of the bargain, right? And this is why we're in the position that we're in. It doesn't make a difference for you, to travel to, because, there's one Israelite, I was talking to, he's from the Caribbean as well. And, I'll say this, like the Caribbean, okay, you have, I guess fairly decent food and, it actually, you have the sun shining bright, so on and so forth. Okay, fine. But it doesn't mean you can't circumvent the curses. You can't circumvent the situation that the Lord has put you under, right? You can't circumvent the Lord in general, right? And that's now that's how people's mindset, because they think that okay, I'm gonna, essentially pack up shop and then set up shop somewhere else, and then think that the problems are not going to follow you. No. These curses are going to follow you. But this is Jake's mindset, right? Because they're carnal, they're not behaving with a spiritual understanding of why they're in the situation they're in. Okay, let me get, because like, for example, when you go into, I'm just going to use the Caribbean as an example, right? Because I'm from there, right? What you have is the curses are still playing out in those particular islands, because what you have now is heathen. So you have so-called like Elamites, I would say it like Elamites. You have Elamites, Edomites, Ammonites, and the Moabites. Jeez, goodness gracious. You have all these different heathens coming up and chopping up your island and extracting the resources, and you can't even, put food on the table. The very land you were enjoying, you can't enjoy it anymore. They're coming up and they're generating all this wealth from your island, and you don't even essentially enjoy the environment that you were so-called born in, right? Let me get Baruch. Okay, this is Baruch 3:8, and it says, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse," right? Because we got scattered from one end of the earth to the other, right? To the four corners of the earth, actually. Let me just make that clear. And like it says in Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, to be a subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which have departed from the Lord thy power, right? So you understand that this is one of the things that, we have to deal with, being subject to these different payments. This is something that also reminded me of also in the time of Nehemiah as well, because, you had, Nehemiah got so upset with our people because essentially they were taking advantage of the people who were not as, I guess, well off. And what was happening, a lot of their children got essentially, they had to like mortgage their fields and so on and so forth to be able to make payments to the Persian government, right? You find that in Nehemiah chapter 5, right? And it's a very, very beautiful story. I will say, I will leave it like that, because you saw the character that Nehemiah exemplified, and you saw the character that the wicked of our people also exemplified as well, right? So they didn't have a healthy fear of the Lord like Nehemiah actually displayed, right? So verse 9, it says, "Hear, Israel, the commandments of life, give ear and understand wisdom. How happeneth, Israel, that thou art in thine enemy's land, and thou art waxen old in a strange country, that thou art defiled with the dead." Right? So we're in a situation where, you're just like, you're just prisoners, right? And our people don't understand, and, they don't have understanding, right? And this is what the prophets, the elders, the apostles have been doing for years, is giving out this understanding. They're giving you out this this food, to be able to actually get comfort, understanding of why you're in this position that you're in, right? It's one thing for you to be in prison. It's another thing for you to be in prison and not have any food, essentially. And I'm speaking food, I'm talking about food spiritually, right? Because Yahushua said that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, right? But I'll jump down to verse 12, and it says, "Thou hast forsaken the fountain of wisdom," right? And that's true, because when you're reading Jeremiah as well, it says that they have heaped unto them like broken cisterns, and cisterns that can hold no water, right? Because they have committed two evils, right? They're not taking, heed to this word, essentially. So this is why they don't have any, peace in their spirit. But anyways, I just thought I would make this quick lesson, hopefully, Yaham Ratiza, as always, this lesson was edifying. And I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Till next time, I say Shabbat Shalom.